Okay, so the question from Ratan is, what is the difference between Hadoop 2 and MRV2? I was thinking MRV1 is HDP1 and MRV2 as HDP2. That's a misunderstanding. So HDP stands for Hortonworks Data Platform. Okay, and Hadoop is from Apache. Whether Hadoop 1 or Hadoop 2 is from Apache. And what Hadoop contains? Hadoop typically contains two components. One is MapReduce and HDFS. You cannot separate those two, because without computing framework, storage does not add much of a value. So HDFS takes care of storage and MapReduce takes care of processing. And from the from Hadoop 1 or Hadoop 2 context, when we are talking about framework, we are only talking about how the mappers and reducers will be executed. We are not talking about how they should be developed. It's from the execution perspective, not from the development perspective, in both the versions. Okay, first let me let us clear HDP from this discussion. Hadoop is different. Hadoop is incubated in Apache, and then you have multiple vendors like Cloudera, Hortonworks, etc., who provide tools around Hadoop core components and Hadoop ecosystem, and such as if it is Hortonworks, it is Ambari. If it is Cloudera, it is Cloudera Manager, and they provide wizards to set up the cluster quickly, and they provide alerting and notifications mechanism. Okay, so the distributions are different. If it is Hortonworks that is distributing the Hadoop, they call it as Hortonworks Data Platform. If it is Cloudera, and Hortonworks Data Platform contains two components, Ambari and Hadoop in that. So typically HDP1 means it will contain Hadoop 1, HDP2 means it will contain Hadoop 2. Similarly, you have CDH, Cloudera distribution of Hadoop, and they don't and within Cloudera also you have enterprise edition, Cloudera Data Hub or something. I do not remember exactly. Let me, similar to HDP, which stands for Hortonworks Data Platform, Cloudera Data Hub edition. Yeah. So Cloudera Data Hub edition. Cloudera Data Hub is the actual term they use to sell their products. And in that Cloudera Data Hub, they provide Cloudera Manager, which helps you to manage the cluster, and CDH, Cloudera Distribution of Hadoop. So even though they say Cloudera Distribution of Hadoop, it is nothing but the Hadoop from the Apache plus other components such as Hive, Scoop, Pig. Everything will be grouped together, and they will provide as part of one umbrella called Cloudera Data Hub. Similarly, Hortonworks Data Platform. So those are just products which are being sold by respective vendors or sell services using those terms. Okay. Now comes Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2, and the second part of the question, MRV1 versus MRV2, is part of Hadoop 1 versus Hadoop 2. Okay, so if we understand what is difference between Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2 in detail, we will be able to understand difference between MRV1 and MRV2 also. So at HDFS level, in Hadoop 1, they only provide distributed, redundant, and reliable storage. When they say reliable, it is only reliable at the data node level, because a file will be divided into blocks, and those blocks will be distributed on the cluster with replication factor. Hence, it is reliable at the data node level. But if name node goes down, okay, because of edit logs and FS image, you will not lose the data. But fault tolerance is not there, means not fault tolerance, transparent failover is not there. You have to build a new name node, you have to apply FS image or restore FS image, and then apply edit log on that or replay edit log on that. So the proper words are restore FS image and replay edit log, so that you get the new name node point in time to the name node which the old name node when it was crashed. So to address that, as part of Hadoop 2, they have provided new component called highly available name node. That is with respect to HDFS, which is nothing but file system. HDFS is just file system, and it is part of Hadoop core components. Okay, and when they say Hadoop, they talk about Hadoop core component, and when they say Hadoop ecosystem, they talk about all the tools around these core components. Now comes execution framework. In MapReduce, they call it as classic in Hadoop 1, and there is execution framework called MapReduce or classic, and it takes care of both cluster resource management and data processing. What is cluster resource management? So you have task trackers on all the nodes, and you have the job tracker, which is a master. On all the data nodes, you have task trackers, and there will be a master called job tracker. So taking the information from the task trackers using heartbeat, job tracker will maintain the resources on the cluster. Okay, when the new jobs comes, using this information which job tracker receives from the task trackers with heartbeat, it will decide how much load is there on each of the task tracker, and based on the load and also data locality, it will try to spawn the jobs. So it does both resource management and also data processing. So it is responsible to decide which task trackers to run the job. And also, while the jobs are running in the form of mappers and reducers within the scope of task tracker on a node, on a physical node, these tasks will send information, how much data is processed by each task. So job tracker, a process in the job tracker will gather this information, aggregate it, and it will present to you when you run the job. For example, if you run Hadoop jar command while the job is running, you will see the cumulative information, how much progress is happening on the job, and job tracker actually generates that by collecting the information from all the task trackers. So in short, that is called as data processing. So job tracker is also responsible for data processing. If one task goes down on one of the task trackers, it's the job tracker which will decide on which task tracker it should retry. Okay, so this is all data processing. So job tracker will play a significant role not only in resource management but also in processing by keeping track of the progress of the job, and also by retrying the failed tasks such as map tasks and reduce tasks on different task trackers. So on a very large cluster like 1000 node and 2000 nodes, if you have in a cluster, they see that job tracker becomes unstable because job tracker is doing too much of work. So in the for that reason, they decided with a new framework, and there are other reasons also. That is one reason, and second reason is job tracker or the classic works only with MapReduce. So if you have multiple tools running on the cluster, as it cannot keep track of other tools, these two tools like Spark and MapReduce, if they are running on the same cluster, if one does not keep track of other, these two can actually contend for the resources unless it is configured properly by the administrators. It's very tough to properly configure when two tools are working in isolated fashion. Okay, there will be contention at some point or the other time. So for these reasons, they came up with a they try to separate cluster resource management with processing. Okay, so as part of cluster resource management, they call it as YARN, and for processing, they created a new framework which is called as MapReduce 2. Okay, MapReduce 2 is primarily for the data processing, and it contains resource manager. It contains application master, and that application master is created for every job, whereas resource management is taken care by resource managers and node managers running on the node manager will be running on all the nodes in the cluster, all the data nodes in the cluster. Resource manager is the master. Node managers send heartbeat to the resource manager, and resource manager can keep track of the cluster resource management. Whereas when the job is started, resource manager will create a job will create an application ID, and it will create an application master on one of the nodes in the cluster, and that application master will take care of data processing. So it will keep track of the progress of the overall job. If one of the tasks fails, it will the application master will directly talk to the node manager and other node manager, and it will retry the task which is failed, etc. Now for each job you will have a new application master, so it works in much more decentralized fashion rather than a job tracker doing both data processing and cluster resource management. In this case, resource manager takes care of cluster resource management, and the per job application master will take care of data processing. And also using yarn you can set up other frameworks also, like Spark, Tez, etc. So when you have one common framework for all the tools that might be deployed on the cluster, all the execution frameworks that might be deployed on the cluster, now it will have much better understanding about the resource utilization of one tool over other tool, and the environment will be much stable. So this is the difference between Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2. Not just MapReduce, but also HDFS. They provide high availability. When it comes to MapReduce, they have decoupled resource management from data processing. Resource management is taken care by resource manager and node managers. Data processing is taken care by application master, negotiating for the resources with the node manager. Okay, so let me know if you have follow-up questions. Otherwise, I will go with other questions we have. Yeah, and also with respect to this, there is another question by Mustak. Which scheduler is default in Yarn? Whether it is Yarn or Classic, the default scheduler is FIFO from Apache. Okay, but when you use the distributions, they override that. Hortonworks uses capacity scheduler, and Cloudera uses phase scheduler by default. Okay, so they are actually overriding the Apache defaults as part of setup process, because FIFO scheduler is not supposed to be used in production. Okay, but they provide it for development purposes, to explore the technologies. If someone want to set up the cluster or use a sandbox, and or even in the local mode, they typically go with FIFO scheduler, but then we have to change it to capacity or phase.
But I was reading that the definitive guide.
Uh-huh.
It says capacity scheduler is used by default. That's what I got confused.
Okay. Probably in Yarn they might have changed it to capacity scheduler. I was under impression that it's
We thought that it's a FIFO.
okay.
It's a capacity scheduler.
Okay, then it's a good point. I am wrong. If it is from definitive guide, definitely that guy's information is more reliable.
Okay. Because I was doing some tests in a paper for the exam.
Okay.
It was a question,
Oh, there is a okay. There is a question on this.
Yeah, and that's why I
From
researched it, and I found this, and I said, well, I'm lost somewhere. Let me check with you then.
okay. So where did you get those questions?
Someone, one of my friend gave me some question answer. He said, you practice this. Is a similar type are coming, not the same, but you get used to it. I said, okay, let me try.
Okay. Because I don't think they will ask this question. What is the default scheduler? Especially as you are giving Cloudera certification, right? Cloudera.
I know that is fair scheduler.
Yeah. So that's what.
That is capacity.
Yes. So definitely they will not ask these kind of questions for sure. They will. The reason is they will try to push their phase scheduler. If it is Hortonworks, then, and if it is objective question, definitely they will ask this question. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Thank you for the correction. I don't know. I was my assumption was wrong. Okay, so and also you have master node will have name node and resource manager. No. So there will be multiple master nodes. Master nodes should not be shared in production cluster. You will have different set of nodes for name nodes and different set of servers for resource manager. You should not overlap masters in production cluster. For POC it is fine the way we are doing, but in production we have to separate them out. Okay, so to recap, let me recap. When we compare Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2, at HDFS level, you don't have high availability in Hadoop 1, which is available in Hadoop 2. At MapReduce level, cluster resource management and data processing is done by MapReduce, whereas it is decoupled and cluster resource management is taken care by Yarn, and data processing is done by MapReduce using per job application master. And also the schedulers in Hadoop 1, the default scheduler is FIFO, and in Hadoop 2, the default means when it is configured with Yarn, the default scheduler is capacity scheduler. Okay. I hope this actually compare Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2 clearly. So I am stopping this. I am assuming that there are no more questions on this topic. We will move on to the next person in a moment.